He makes his threes, the Warriors win, and when he doesn't, they lose. Last night was no different. Steph became the first player in NBA postseason history with at least 6 steals and 6 three-pointers in a game as the Warriors beat the Grizzlies. Steph Curry on the win.
We play a very entertaining, high-octane style of basketball, but as long as we're not rushing, moving the basketball from side to side like we preach all year, we're going to make shots because of the flow and the rhythm of our possessions, and that's what's changed since game 2.
The Warriors are now 7-0 this postseason when Curry makes at least 3 three-pointers, 0-2 when he doesn't. So here's the question, Stephen A. Do you believe that the Warriors are the best team left in the playoffs?
Yes, I do. I do believe they're the best team left in the playoffs for a bevy of reasons. Number one, Steph Curry, the reigning league MVP, has answered the call. He's answered the bell, and there should be no question marks about him. That Game 4 in Memphis was pivotal, and for him to show up the way that he did that night and drop 33 on them, I can't say enough about him. He's my favorite player to watch in the league. He's absolutely spectacular, and even though his shooting percentage and his three-point shooting percentage numbers have dropped in these playoffs, he's still averaging 28, 6, and 5 in the postseason. There's nothing to question about him. Klay Thompson, averaging 20 points a game, shooting 47% from the field, 46% from three-point range. He's been absolutely stellar as well. But I'm going to tell you what makes Golden State, Skip, the best team in the playoffs. It's not just their record. It's not just their talent. It's not just the exceptional coaching job that we have to give Steve Kerr credit for doing, along with Alvin Gentry, his lead assistant. But it's also health. They're the one team that's healthy. Memphis right now, Skip, tell me your heart didn't go out to Tony Allen watching him on that bench last night in street clothes. You saw it in his face. He was sick to his stomach that he couldn't be out there playing. We know coming into the series that Mike Conley was limited because of what happened to his left eye. Got the eye socket pushed in, had to be operated on, missed 3 games. If Tony Allen and Mike Conley were healthy, I don't think we see 2 blowout losses in this series at the hands of the, by the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't think that happens. I think it's far more competitive than that, even though it's still 3-2 and could potentially be 3-3. So Memphis is not healthy. You look at the Los Angeles Clippers, who I firmly believe it will close out the Houston Rockets tonight. Chris Paul and his hamstring, plus their lack of depth, makes them a bit inferior to Golden State. Then we go to the Eastern Conference. Chicago has trouble scoring, so they wouldn't beat Golden State. Atlanta is impressive, but let's face it, they ain't ready on that level. And then when you look at the Washington Wizards, we've seen their lapses as well, and I don't think they would be ready because you can't have Nene or Gortat or other individuals showing up sporadically. They got to show up every game. We can't rely on them. And then, of course, there's the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James. Kevin Love is out, and Kyrie Irving's not 100%. So if Kevin Love were healthy and Kyrie Irving were 100%, and somehow, some way Cleveland would have meet Golden State, I'm going to put my money on LeBron. But because you don't have all your horses available to you, and Golden State does, plus they're talented, it's almost by default. Not to say that their record doesn't matter, the talent that they have, which is big time, doesn't matter, the snipers that they have on their squad don't matter. All of those things work in their favor. But ultimately, they're the one elite team in this postseason who has remained healthy. No one else can say that. And that is what makes them the better team than everybody else in this postseason right now.
Yeah, they did lose Spates for here a little while anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm with you. And I agree with your big picture. All these injuries, this spate of injuries across the landscape, it's taken a lot away from the playoffs for me as a fan. Heck, I miss Kevin Durant and Westbrook right now. I miss Kobe in the playoffs. Seriously.
No, not
I mean, seriously.
I miss Kobe.
I mean, it's just not the same without all these supers. I miss Carmelo in the playoffs. I know that was a long shot, but these are the superstars that weren't around because of injuries.
And Skip, by the way, doesn't it annoy you that these injuries have been taking place considering the regular season games that these guys have sat out?
Yeah.
Hasn't that got I mean, you go sit out some of the regular season games so you can be healthy for the playoffs, and then the playoffs come and nobody's healthy. It drives me nuts.
It drives me nuts, and I do miss my San Antonio Spurs, but that's a whole other issue.
Yes,
now, back to the quickly back to the question. Golden State, the best team left in the playoffs, easily. And I'll tell you why, Stephen A., that a lot of people, the big point being missed here, we all fixate on, we're fascinated by Splash Brothers, as Carrie pointed out in her lead to this, making threes. They live and die by the three. Well, the truth is, in the end, I think they're living and dying by their defense. And it's hard to get it through your brain what this team is doing, but it led the NBA in defensive efficiency. And through 5 games of this series, Memphis has averaged 88.8 points per game. Think about that. 88. They're holding Memphis under, not that Memphis is an offensive juggernaut, because they're not. But to hold them, that's almost 10 points under their seasonal offensive average of 98.3. They're 88.8. Well, when you combine one of the best offenses, they were 1/10 of a point below the Clippers in regular season offense, with the best defense, guess what? You got the best team. You know, so it's going to be hard to beat this team. It's going to be interesting if we get Clippers Golden State. But
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. But to your point, as Steve Kerr also said, that is what's going to bring this team together, the defense. Yep. Coming up next, Lovie Smith responds to what a Florida State legend said about Jameis Winston. We will tell you what was said when we return. Download and subscribe to the new podcast, Be Honest. It's available on iTunes and the ESPN radio app. This week, we talk about self-doubt. Am I good enough? How does that relate to one Tom Brady? Download the podcast and find out. Speaking of the Patriots, 2 days after being released by the Patriots, the Ravens signed Kyle Arrington to a 3-year deal. After winning the Super Bowl, the Patriots have lost this. Take a look. Darrelle Revis, Brandon Browner, and free agency. They also got rid of Alfonso Dennard. So, Skip, how much trouble are the Patriots in at corner?
Stephen A., I would have to say a whole lot of trouble. I'm lost here. I'm baffled. I know that Bill Belichick has a plan. I just, at this moment, can't quite imagine what that plan would be. Because obviously you go from Revis and Browner to, I'm thinking, okay, well, Alfonso Dennard was in the doghouse last year, but he's been a starter before. I'm okay with him. Kyle Arrington had some trouble in the Super Bowl, but he started a lot of games, so I'm okay with him. And obviously Malcolm Butler, the Super Bowl hero from nowhere. Maybe he'll emerge and be a star. I don't know.
No Darrelle Revis.
And that's what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden they cut Dennard, and then they cut Kyle Arrington, saying, well, maybe they'll bring him back. And then the Ravens jump in and sign him. And I'm thinking, okay, wait, now we're down to Malcolm Butler and Bradley Fletcher, the ex-Eagle, who got so torched by my Cowboys and Des Bryant that it forced you to wear a Tony Romo jersey. That's the guy. That's who's most responsible, Bradley Fletcher, for you wearing a Tony Romo jersey, and now he could be a starter for my New England Patriots. Malcolm Butler and wait, Bradley Fletcher? What is up with that?
That could be a superstar tandem. You never know.
Well, well, first of all, I didn't know that we were talking about the San Antonio Spurs. I thought it was football instead of basketball, because you sound like the same brat that talks about the San Antonio Spurs. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. We understand that they lost Revis, they lost Browner, they lost Wilfork. We get all of that. Obviously, that's a big loss, and there's reasons to be concerned about their defense. But they still have Belichick, and we've got to believe that somehow, some way, he's going to find a way at least to keep them respectable. From the offensive side of the ball, they're returning practically everybody of significance. When you combine that with the fact that they were they scored the 4th most points in the NFL at over 29 points a game last year, I definitely think that's something to take into consideration. You still have Edelman, you still have Amendola, you still have Gronkowski, okay, you still have Blunt, you will have Brady, whether it be after 2 games, after 4 games, or all 16 games. We have yet to find out, but they'll be highly motivated. They're returning about 18 starters. So when I look at it from that perspective, Skip, if the only thing of concern I have for the Patriots is the fact that they took a shot at Hartline out of Miami. He signed elsewhere. They took a shot at Reggie Bush. He signed elsewhere. I forgot who else it was. I think Percy Harvin. He ended up going to Buffalo. You had about 13 or 15 top free agent cornerbacks out there available who signed elsewhere. None of them were with New England. So I look at it from that perspective, and I say I'm shocked that people wouldn't gravitate to a world champion who obviously is being led by an exceptional Hall of Fame coach in Bill Belichick. That's cause for concern. But outside of that, in the end, the nucleus of their team, for the most part, remains intact. To win a Super Bowl, maybe not. But to win the AFC East again, get back to the postseason, I don't think there's too much reason for concern in that regard.
Oh, okay, I get it that they could win a lot of games 49-48, but you're omitting the fact that your biggest target on this show last year, Bradley Fletcher, could now be a starter for the New England Patriots defending championship
I don't know if he was
team.
the biggest target.
He was.
Well,
he was
well,
all
I
over
agree
him.
with that, but it's a difference between playing for Chip Kelly and playing for Bill Belichick.
Well, that's fair, and I hope you're right about that. But
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe there's some ace in the hole we're not seeing.
I'm sure Belichick has something going on. We've got to wrap the show. Stephen A., since you're in Chicago, the game is official tonight, so I'm assuming that we will all watch. Make sure that he's there. Make sure you watch on ESPN. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll see you. Have a good afternoon.